All right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all being in this live, man. Big Q representing the mighty Who Dat Nation. Much love to the fam. Appreciate y'all being in the stream. Much love. Big up claps for you guys as we get going in the broadcast. Shout out to the fam. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the show. Feel free to get y'all bets in at FanDuel. Hit that like button for the stream. Now, listen, fam, they have this really interesting rumor that's out here about Cowboys wide receiver George Pickens. And there's a betting app right now that they have out that they're saying that the Saints are 50% odds for getting Pickens. Now, I want to talk about that right now. This, like I said, it's circulating about this social media, and the betting odds are linking him to us via trade and all this kind of rigmarole. But I'm going to give you 5 reasons why that's not going to happen, right? We're going to start off with this insider right here. If we can be able to do that. See if I can get my insider screen up here right quick. But y'all hit that like button as we get up in the stream, man. Much love, peace. Appreciate y'all for being in the stream on this thing. And that's what I'm talking about. So in this stream, and I'll tell y'all guys how this is a bunch of yes, that this is not going to happen. Tom Pelissero kind of breaks down and give the trade value of this particular player. We're going to cover that in the broadcast. Y'all hit the like button. Here we go.
Start with this. When George Pickens was traded a year ago from Pittsburgh to Dallas, there wasn't like a huge market for him, as evidenced by the fact that he went for a 3rd-round pick. Yeah. A lot of the stuff that had caused him to go in the 2nd round of the draft in college showed up in Pittsburgh. Teams were aware of it. That's why there wasn't more of a market for a guy who is as talented as any receiver in the NFL.
Absolutely.
So is there a scenario where a team steps up and offers something significant enough to make Dallas move? There is. That hasn't happened to this point. And you have to wonder, given the value of George Pickens to the Cowboys, is there anything that someone could offer that would actually make them move? In other words, I don't see somebody being willing to give up a 1st-round pick and more for George Pickens right now on top of giving him the contract. Okay. So if no one's going to do that, why would the Cowboys move? Again, there is a level at which, from my understanding, based on my belief, that they would be willing to listen. I just don't know that barring injury, and injuries can happen, let's say somebody goes down in the first week of training camp, a contender, and they're like, we got to get a guy. Maybe you are willing at that point to give up a 1st-round pick and more to go get a George Pickens. Failing that, I believe he plays this out. Jerry Jones already said they're not going to negotiate a long-term deal right now. So you're probably playing on the franchise tag, which is why you go and sign it rather than having the long shot. I don't think this would have happened, but the long shot possibility of the Cowboys pulling it, and all of a sudden nobody's willing to go out and give you $27 million that you would be due. So his agents at Athletes First, David Mulugeta, like, they don't have guys miss paychecks. Mulugeta never advises his guys don't show up. They don't always practice. Sometimes it's you have a back issue and you're basically standing around for a month.
Oh, mom.
But for Pickens, to me, it makes sense. He's going to show up. He now is bound to show up for minicamp and to training camp. I don't think it's going to be a hold-in type of situation. We'll see if maybe his reps are limited and things like that. But George Pickens' best path here is go play really well. Your next tag next year will be 120% of this year's, which is around $33 million if I'm doing the math right in my head. So now your options are you pay $33 next year, which is $60 million over 2, or you get to hit free agency next year. Well, the only way you're going to have that type of value next year is you play really well again. Don't get suspended for the first drive of a game in Vegas. Don't have any of those little blips that you did in the past. You don't want to go down that road. To me, it makes sense for Pickens to show up and play. Can I 100% say he'll be a Cowboy in 2026? No. Because again, things change. Things move. Injuries happen. Needs change. But all things equal, sitting here right now, I believe George Pickens is on the Cowboys in 2020.
All right. Thank you, Tom Pelissero, for that very lengthy and thorough breakdown about the Pickens situation with the Cowboys. Now, as we get back into it, man, what I'm saying is this just simply is not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. And I'll give you a bunch of reasons why. I got it broken down here to kind of discuss it with the family members very meticulously. And like I said, man, it's just not going to happen. Now, of course, people can say, Q, the Saints having issues with Chris Olave. They want to get his contract done. They're trying to do something with AK-41, get him off the team, all this kind of stuff. I've totally told you guys that those two are linked. The Saints are going to try to use whatever they can get from the Alvin Kamara pay cut that they want them to do. Y'all watch out for a June 1st, a post-June 1st cut on AK-41. Be very mindful of that. That's why Mickey Loomis is bringing this around. If he don't do it, which would be to me would be uh, to me this would be that would be awful to do him like that. But he's protected by the contract. If the Saints need to make a move, that might be the thing that you'd be looking for. So we'll be paying attention to that part of it. But in terms of the money, that they want to play Chris Olave. I do think the Saints want to give him the 30 plus million a season. A lot of people saying that because of the issues and all this kind of stuff. I think the Saints committed to it. I think whatever they are trying to do in the head of Mickey, it comes through Alvin Kamara's pay cut situation, whatever they can roll from that into whatever they're going to give Chris Olave. Now, let me go into it like this. Now, if you look at the Saints cap table, they have roughly about $8 or $9 million there over the, in terms of being in the black. Now, we just talked about the potential trade of George Pickens, whose franchise tag is $27 million. Now, a trading for him for the Saints is right now totally impossible because that just wouldn't make sense. They don't have that kind of cap money currently, and there is no negotiating on that. That is what it is. But you'll have to pay him. You have to absorb that into your team. Now, number one reason why this is not going to happen with the Saints. Saints currently hold about 7-8 million in active cap space. To absorb Pickens' fully guaranteed, non-negotiable 27 plus $1 million base salary, the Saints will have to clear an additional 20 plus million in a vacuum. Now Pickens has already signed his franchise tender with the Cowboys, right? So trading him can trade a trading team, that they can't manipulate or backload that, right? Through until the next offseason. So forcing a 27 plus $1 million luxury piece onto a roster already dealing with some internal depth issues, it's completely that's not going to work. And then, of course, you hear Mickey talking about, research management, research management. He got this new buzzword that he kicking around now is resource management, which means making sure players' money match production. That's pretty much what that is. So that's the number one thing. The Saints simply don't have the money to do it currently. Now, number two, like I mentioned, Alvin Kamara did money trap, right? Saints currently are locked in an uncomfortable standoff with AK-41. Make Loomis recently converted Alvin Kamara's base salary into an optional signing bonus, lowering his 26 cap hit to about $10.5 million, but keeping his cash payout at $11.5 million. So the Saints desperately want Kamara to take or accept a pay cut to ease the tight budget. But if he refuses, they're stuck, right? Because he don't want to be traded. Alvin doesn't want to be traded. So, that's out of the option. So the only feasible thing, if the Saints do, is sit on the pay cut, let him take it, or release him with a June 1st. Now, that would trigger a devastating $24.4 million dead cap hit. Even a post June 1st cut only yields about $3.3 million in savings. So he looking at it not so far this year, but kicking it into next year. That's what Mickey Loomis is thinking. So the gridlock ensures that the Saints cannot look outside for explosive wide receiver trades when their own backfield financials are frozen in place for what they need to do for Chris Olave. Now, number three, the unresolved Olave extension. The primary reason why the Saints will not trade for an outside wide receiver, is that they haven't paid their own homegrown superstar. That's a bad look. The optics is horrible on that. So Chris Olave is locked into the 2026 year with that 15.4 plus million fifth year option. So he's actively seeking a mega extension coming off a dominant 100 catch, 1,100 yard campaign, something like that. And Mickey admitted that the team is hopeful to secure Olave's long term deal. So he recently said they're not there yet on the deal. So with the wide receiver market position in Olave, his asking price around $31 to $33 million. Really, it actually more than that. It's like 30 to 35 annually. It would be, that would be, organizational issues for the Saints to send premium draft assets to a $27 million cap space for an outside receivers like Pickens, while their clear number one sits waiting for his contract. So that's not even how they operate. But it's just giving up one for the other. And then even though you got the optional Olave is 15.4, Pickens is at 27 on a franchise tag. So that don't make any sense. So you're going up as opposed to back on a team that's looking to kind of cut some of the money. My fourth reason why it won't happen, the how the roster is architect, and of course you had the signing of you drafted Jordyn Tyson into the team. So the Saints' financial architecture is intentionally built around pairing an expensive veteran wideout with a cheap rookie counterpart. That's how they're doing this thing. That's how you keep the spending balance. So drafting Jordyn Tyson with the eighth overall pick, the Saints secured a high end target on a fully guaranteed 4 year deal at just under 33 mil. That's his rookie contract. Now he's averaging about 8.2 million a year on that rookie deal. Now that's affordable rookie uh, that's designed as to perfectly counterbalance what Olave's blockbuster extension is going to be. So even mixing Pickens' massive contract into that type of system would destroy the strategy that they're coming in here with. So the Saints two highly paid wideouts alongside a top 10 wideout, that's not even going to work. They don't have the money. It don't make sense. And then the final reason is that the Cowboys hold all the leverage anyway. The Cowboys absolutely have no incentive to accommodate a trade like that. That hurts their own roster because Pickens is under the franchise tag. The Cowboys control his rights for this year. Even if Pickens threats a holdout over a long-term security, the Cowboys completely content to let him play out on the year on that tag to maximize their Super Bowl window. So if the Saints, if it's any type of thing, which I doubt it, but if a small inkling saying if the Saints somehow want to pry him away, they would have to offer a huge package of draft picks that a cash strapped team simply won't do. That don't make any sense for the new philosophy that they're employing. So that's five reasons why this just simply won't happen, and this makes no sense. This is something simply that is conjured out of the backside of Vegas. It simply will not happen. And of course, and let me add this to it. This is also the current list of wide receivers the Saints have. We know the money is just outright ridiculous in terms of what Pickens has at 27 on that franchise tag. I do when Mickey Loomis says that he is interested in bringing Chris Olave's extension and paying him the money. I believe that. I believe what he's saying. I don't think the Saints are strumming them along. I think ultimately they will get the deal done. When will they get it done? I have no idea, but I do believe the team when they say they want to pay Chris Olave. I do believe them on that. You know, uh, you know, weirdly to say, but this is the Saints' current wide receiver depth chart minus one wide receiver that they recently signed. The kid that's the son of the wrestler. He's not on this list, but just know that you can add him to it. So these are 13 wide receivers the Saints currently have on team. We mentioned Chris Olave, Jordyn Tyson to go along with Divine Vile, and then you have Bryce Lance, Barry Brown from LSU, and then Jalen Polk, Bud Means, Mason Tipton, Kevin Austin Jr., Ronnie Bell, Trey Palmer, Damian Alford, and the wrestlers kid. Now, what's interesting about it's like I said about the whole Pickens thing is that the reason why I just don't see it happening is just the money don't look right. The money's not right, and then the optics would be wrong to do that. I do believe the team when they say they want to offer Chris Olave this money. I don't think they're jerking him around. I think they are trying to figure a way to pay him without kind of dipping into void years and all that. That's the last strategy they want to do. It's tied to Elvin's money. They want to flip some of that, throw it to him this year, and kind of move it forward. So that's why he hadn't signed. That's why the Alvin Kamara thing is front for Mickey Loomis and such a problem for Mickey Loomis because he wants him to take the pay cut. He wants him to take the pay cut. If he absorbs the pay cut, then he can remain on the team as well as the Saints will have that extra revenue where they can be able to kick it to Olave. If he doesn't, if they designate him a June post June 1st cut, they just get 3.3 mil, which is still a something. It's not as much as he would get if they took the cut. But understand this. It sounds simple from the Saints' perspective, but Alvin Kamara has no intention of doing that. He's already on the team. He has 1 year remaining. He's not going to be a trade piece. So at the bottom line, the basics of it all is that he's sitting with the leverage. And if Mickey Loomis wants to do something about it, he's going to have to hit him with that post June 1st cut because ain't no trade coming because he's not going to accept it. He's not going anywhere. So y'all put it in the chat. Let me know how y'all feel about this. I just wanted to drop this on y'all heads right quick. Y'all chime in the chat. Let me know how y'all feel, because they got people in the Who That Nation that would be interested in having a George Pickens. Who wouldn't? But if you know anything about a budget, if you have your own house, or if you do anything in terms of a budget or whatever, that's not what how the Saints going to roll. They're not going to go get a $27 million franchise player. You can't renegotiate the franchise tag. It's set in stone. They would have to absorb all this, and then of course you still got Chris Olave sitting there. Even if they would have to find something to trade for him, the Cowboys would have to take draft picks and players and a mix, all that kind of. That's just to seem really complicated to do this late in the game before a few months before the season start, where they already got everything set. And like I said, I believe them. I think they want to pay Chris Olave. I think it goes through Alvin Kamara, some kind of weird way Mickey Loomis is looking at it. So anyway, y'all chime in the chat. Let me know what y'all thoughts are on this. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the show. Get your prop bets in at FanDuel. Big Q representing the mighty Who Dat Nation. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on social media feed. Man, we up in this thing. But holla at y'all on the next one. Let me know how y'all think about this in the chat. Much love, peace, and Who Dat to you.
Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who?
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with thewhodatdaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit thewhodatdaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to The Pro Shop, where we create authentic, NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping The Pro Shop, The Pel Shop, or The Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.